when you were young and your heart was an open book. You used to say, live and let live. You know you did, you know you did, you know you did. But if this ever-changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry, say live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die. What does it matter to you when you got a job to do? You gotta do it well. You got to give the other fella
Hi everyone and welcome to Plastic EP Live TV. It's not every day when we got such fantastic news. Today from all over the world, right? We've got Nigel Pearce coming in from the UK. We've got Mr. Shampoo, Nathan Lou from Alberta, Canada. Then our very special guest today from the UK is Tom Jennings, who has just completed now the 1972 Paul McCartney tour bus. It's got a stage, it's got everything. Welcome to the show, Tom, again.
Well, it's a pleasure, Plastic. Absolute pleasure.
Now, Tom, we're going to let you tell us the story now of how great it is now. It's been completed. The BBC has covered it. Bus has gone to a big car show or bus show, whatever you want to call it. Just fill us in on what's happened in the last couple of weeks.
We had a roller coaster, rock and roll, ticket to ride restoration. We wanted to give the bus another ticket to ride. And so it has another ticket to ride now, big time. And the guys loved the bus, and it was very difficult to get it off them. All the guys that were working on the bus for it to go to its biggest show, the Classic Motor Show at the NEC, which is the biggest exhibition centre in the UK. And the bus was the star of the show. It was at the entrance to Hall 5, and the crowds were there, and the crowds came, and they just looked. We had bands on the new McCartney stage. I reimagined and re-engineered the top deck to make the side drop down, and it turns into a performance space. We've christened it after, named it in honor of its very own superstar, and it's called the McCartney stage. And we had bands on there, and they were thrilled to be on that. They almost called it hallowed ground, where Paul and Linda and Henry and Denny and all the guys, and Stella McCartney had her playpen. Stella was 10 months old when that tour happened, and Stella was in the playpen, and you can see that on the videos, her in the playpen. And so it was just a wonderful, carefree tour, and it was Paul's breaking out, as Denny Sawa called it. He said that this was, Paul stepped onto the bus as former Beatle Paul McCartney, and he stepped off that bus 7,500 miles and 25 gigs later as Paul McCartney and Wings. And that transformation happened on the bus. And so many things potentially happened on the bus. He went into Abbey Road Studios a few weeks after getting off the bus, and he recorded the Red Rose Speedway album. And he also recorded Live and Let Die, the James Bond theme song, first James Bond theme song nominated for an Oscar. So it's possible that the 7,000 miles that the bus did with Paul McCartney provided inspiration for his songwriting and creativity and the freedom of the road and the atmosphere. So that would have been a really wonderful thing. So we were very aware of all of that. The boys, Brad, the restorer, Kieran, and all the guys, Ben, Ray, They were just chuffed to bits to be working on this bus, this living museum, this rock and roll museum, this Woodstock on wheels, this 70 years of transport of the people, motoring heritage, this artwork, that have been done by Jeff Cleghorn, friend of Pink Floyd, The Who, the Rolling Stones, and Paul McCartney, of course. And we reimagined that. We reimagined the top deck to turn it into a performance space, the McCartney stage. The bands were on there. They loved it being on there. So all in all, everywhere we go, there are many, many exciting things coming along for the bus that we're negotiating with right now. The phone is going, the emails are coming in after the appearance at the NEC. ITV News did a lovely feature on it. BBC News did a lovely feature on it. And it's all over the McCartney, all the, you know, the Beatles forums and the McCartney forums, you know, on social media, which is wonderful. And of course, we love it, and the bus deserves it.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. This is Nigel Pearce here, Tom. And
hello, Nigel.
I don't live that too far from it, because I live in North Norfolk, and we saw the nice expose of it on Anglia Television News. And I admit, I did see the bus in 1972-73. So it's been nearly 50 years since I've seen it since.
Wow.
I do happen to know that on one of the events, he poured into Nottingham University to play the lunchtime gig for the Students' Union. And I know that Paul always said afterwards that it was great fun waiting for the Students' Union to have a whip round so that they could pay the band's fees for the hour's gig at Nottingham University. So that is a real sort of, as you say, breaking out and breaking in to wherever he was going to go. He didn't know at the time. So, but really, how did you come across the bus?
I love Garth Brooks. And I was in October 2019, I was on holiday with time on my hands, and I went online looking for a Garth Brooks guitar. So I play guitar and I sing, and ended up buying Paul McCartney's bus. So from a guitar to a bus, I don't know. So I love Garth Brooks, especially the songs If Tomorrow Never Comes and The Dance, and of course Friends in Low Places. And I wanted a guitar, maybe even a Takamine, you know, GB7C that Garth had actually played. I wanted one that he'd played, not just a replica or a copy. So I registered with a few websites, and they started sending me musical memorabilia, and lots of stuff came in that was of no interest. But one day, a message arrived in that just stopped me in my tracks, and it was Paul McCartney's 1972 Wings Tour Bus was coming up for auction. Wow. All of a sudden, I got this rush of color and music, and the memories just flooded back in. I saw this double-decker bus in all its beautiful, colorful glory with Paul, Linda, the children, Heather, Mary, and Stella McCartney, the band, Denny Lane, Denny Sywell, Henry McCullough, the wives and girlfriends, all enjoying the open top deck, the fresh air, the sunshine, as they rode along. And in my head, I just heard this fabulous Beatles McCartney soundtrack. So I was 11 in 1962 when the Beatles exploded, and loved the music. I was 21 when Paul's Wings Over Europe tour happened, and it didn't cross my mind to buy this bus, only to check into the auction a couple of weeks later to see what it went for. So fast forward a couple of weeks and checked in, was astonished, not one bid. I mean, the bus was in a bad way, but surely someone could see past that and see what a treasure it was. So I checked further, and when I read the auction description, it just didn't do justice at all to the bus. Now, I used to buy, do up and sell motors, so I know how to put together an advert. And my head just wouldn't leave this description alone. I was really offended for the bus, on behalf of the bus. So already I'm feeling protective. So this bus should have a provenance, like any treasure. So I had the laptop with me on holiday. So I thought, so just a mental exercise, I thought, right, I started tapping out what I thought this bus should have said about it. And then I'd leave it and a bit more holiday, go down by the pool, you know, go out, this, that, and the other. But my head wouldn't leave it alone. So I'd be making notes in my phone while I'm out, sitting in the bar or wherever we were. Came back, applied it all. So about 3 days of that, I was happy after what I'd written after about 3 days. And when I read it out loud, I'd read it out loud to myself, but when I read it out loud to my great friend, Steve Travis of the Miami Show Band in Ireland, he said, Tom, he said, I think you've succeeded in selling it to yourself. So a couple of weeks later, the bus was mine. And well, as for the Garth Brooks guitar, well, that may have to wait a while. I hope Garth understands. And well, thank you, Garth, for bringing me Paul's bus.
Tom, this bus only had a top speed of 38 miles per hour. And it's an incredible journey what they did. They did 9 countries, and they had 25 concerts, and the bands, all the guys' names were on the back of the bus. They took out all the seats on the top, and there was bean bags, and like you said, a thing for Stella, a little, you know, little playpen, and they kept 4 original seats on the bus, you know, with Paul. And it's amazing where the bus was, because if you look at where the bus resided, it's in this field of nothing and probably sucked into the mud. And I saw how you guys had to get it out, so that must have been really stressful for you to see this bus getting onto the truck to get it to the garage, you know?
Well, luckily enough, David Hoare, who's the transport museum, Chepstow Classic Buses, which is just across the bridge. When I was researching the bus, I started looking on the groups on Facebook. So I knew it was a Bristol bus. It's a 1953 Bristol KSW. So I started looking to see if there were any Bristol bus forums and groups on Facebook, and thankfully there are. And I started researching, started looking at all the posts and all the rest of it. And I thought, and I was on the verge of buying it, but I thought, no, I need to sort of settle. I need to get a lot more information. And one name kept cropping up, and it was a man called William Staniforth. And so I rang him up and I said, hi, William. I said, my name is Tom. I said, I think I might be about to buy a 1953 Bristol KS Dub. And I just got to the dot of W, and he said, would that be the McCartney bus? And I said, well, actually, William, yes, it is. And he said, buy it. And I said, well, hang on now. I said, because it needs a lot of work and it needs restoration and it needs this. And he said, David Hoare of Chepstow Classic Buses, literally across the Severn Bridge from Bristol, where the bus was born. And he said, he's your man, he will sort it out. And everything and anything that you need for that bus, he'll be able to do it. And he was right, absolutely right. So from William's, I knew William was the leading man. William has become the #1 guardian angel of the bus. So all things Bristol, he's the man. And he found the seats, which is another amazing story, because the original seats that went into the bus, we now believe that they came from the 1970 England World Cup team coach that went to Mexico for the 1970 World Cup. And same company had the 2 vehicles, same yard. So we've got the World Cup going on right now. So this is a highly topical story for right now. But this bus has had so many brushes with, the England World Cup, Julie Andrews, Roger Moore, of course, Trevor Brooking, the FA Cup, and the World Cup. It's just crazy the amount of stuff, the amount of brushes with other famous people and places. that this bus has had. It's truly a blessed bus. Really, really amazing history.
Tom, I've got to ask you, did they find the bus in Tenerife? Is that where the bus was?
The bus went through an auction, Sotheby's auction, in 1993, and this guy bought it. He was a property developer, but he also owned nightclubs and pubs and restaurants and stuff. And he bought it subsequent to the Sotheby's auction. It didn't sell in the auction, but of course it alerts all the buyers, and then all the private buyers come in. And this man was a private buyer. And he bought it. He shipped it all the way down to Tenerife, and he put it outside his Rock Cafe, this beautiful, amazing place called Harley's in Tenerife. And it was there for, we know it was there for probably 2 or 3 years in pride of place outside it. And then, being a property developer, apparently, legend has it that he got planning permission for the land behind his Rock Cafe. And the land where the bus was became the roadway into that particular hotel. So it lost its place, but he couldn't bear to part with it. So he put the bus safely around the back of his house in an open kind of storage area. And over 20 years, all of the building materials, because he was a property developer, so he was a builder, and all the building materials stacked up all around the bus. And it was there for years, and he still couldn't bear to part with it. He just loved the bus. So it was at the bottom of a ravine in a private area, so nobody could see it. You couldn't see it from the road.
Fantastic. Now, Nigel, have you got the John Lennon guitar there?
Oh, wow.
Hey, there you go, Tom.
What have you got, Nigel?
Well, all I've got here, Tom, I'll show it to you for another day, but I've got a Rickenbacker C325 C64 jet glow black 21 fret licensed Lennon guitar.
Wow. Oh my goodness me. That's so cool. That is so cool.
And I got it. I was very fortunate because of collecting Beatle memorabilia, which Plastic knows all about. And I've got loads of letters and memos and things. And I'm actually written the book Inside Number 3, which Plastic may well tell you about as well. And I'm actually doing that.
3 Summer Row.
Yep.
I was on the roof.
Yes, well, there you go. You see,
I made it onto the roof. In the early 80s, a great friend of mine, Steve Chaplin, was doing PA systems, and Lemmy's, you know, Lemmy from Motorhead.
I do.
His son was launching his career, and the record company hired the roof of the legendary Apple building. Steve rang me up. He knew I was mad about the Beatles. And he said, Tom, he said, do you want to come and help me with the PA? And he said, you can come in. And he said, you'll make it onto the roof. And I went, oh, Steve, I'm there. So it was a thrill. I was tingling.
You'll have to excuse me, Tom. Sadly for you on that occasion, I beat you. I actually got onto the roof in 1976. And I actually sat in the basement studio where Lennon sat under the piano with the Let It Be sessions doing the Long and Winding Road, because when I went down there was a little piece of blue tape with a cross on the floor, and I sat on that little spot where John sat to do the Long and Winding Road. And so it is no competition, but I have to say, yes, I've been on the roof, and it is an awe-inspiring sight. I've still got a couple of photographs somewhere, but you're quite correct. I wrote a book called Inside Number 3, which details a lot of the Apple artists and memorabilia, which I've got. We'll put the websites up so you can have a look. But the point is, I'd like to feature your bus in the next book volume, which is called Outside Number 3, which is covering the Beatles' solo career from 1970 to 1976. And as Plastic knows, and we've shown here, I have lots of memorabilia, lots of memos and letters and things from Apple, because I had a relative that worked for EMI, and she actually, she's passed on now, I'm afraid, but she met George Martin, Jeff Emerick, and all those kind of people. She wrote to Paul McCartney several times. The last time was at Elstree in 1976 before he went to Wings Over America, because he did a complete situation. And this is the crowning glory. When the Beatles came down to Manchester Square to do their very first concert, just prior to releasing the album Please Please Me, there was about 300 people in the audience to see the Beatles do 6 songs, and my auntie was one of them.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And unfortunately, they searched everyone so that no photographs could be taken. And so all the cameras were taken. And she said the songs that they did was Love Me Do, P.S. I Love You, Saw Her Standing There, Ask Me Why, Please Please Me, and then finished up with Twist and Shout, and that was it.
Well, Tom, I heard that this bus was equipped with a kitchen and it was carpeted and they had a stereo. And is it all still there?
It's no, all of the what happened was all of that stuff was taken out in 72. So what we had to do was work from the available photos and go with all the clues. I even built a 3D model of the bus so that I could place things in, put things in place as the clues came in, and we could see from the available photos the exact position of the seats and where they were and all that. So we've reproduced every single thing that we possibly could. But the stereo don't really need that these days. The kitchen has actually been replaced by Denny Sywell's trunk. Denny Sywell, the drummer, the Wings drummer who was on that tour, he donated to the bus the trunk that Paul McCartney gave him. And he said, I want to donate it to the bus. And I said, wow, what fantastic. He lives now in LA. He was living in New York. And he said, Tom, he said, I kept that trunk, he said, for 50 years. But he said, I will give it to the bus. And that is sitting in pride of place in the position where, as we called it, Linda's kitchen was.
Now, Tom, I want you to tell everybody now about all the links about the bus, people that are friends of the bus, everything out there on the net. They can go and check it out. Just give everyone all the links. Okay.
Well, the number one link is the website. Paul McCartney calls it the 1972 Wings Tour Bus. So 1972wingstourbus.com. Facebook, go on Facebook, 1972 Wings Tour Bus, and you will find all of the links. I've been concentrating on Facebook because the wonderful groups there for the Bristol bus and the Beatles and the McCartney forums and groups on there are really brilliant, and they're full of great people. So I've concentrated the efforts on Facebook. So they're the two main places, but to get, lovely reactions, from people, just tremendous. Everybody is important to us, and everybody to us is a star. Everybody who loves the bus is a star to us.
It's been a fantastic show. Thank you, Tom Jennings. Thank you, Nigel Pearce. Thank you, Mr. Shampoo, Nathan Liu. See everyone.